Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please join me in welcoming our webcast viewers. My name is Fred Mifflin, President of the Canadian Club of Toronto. Viewers, we're very pleased that you're joining us today. For 120 years, the Canadian Club has been proud to provide a forum for leaders in every aspect of society to share their ideas with us and to challenge our thinking. Through our programs and activities, we offer access to dynamic business, political, and public figures from across Canada and around the world. Our Global Leaders series is a great example. At a time when Canada risks being economically marginalized by increasing protectionism and significantly greater economic influence from Asian markets, this series celebrates Canadian business leaders who are taking bold steps both at home and beyond our borders to create opportunity and prosperity here in Canada, like our guest speaker today, Barry Perry. Before I formally introduce Barry, here's a preview of some of our upcoming events. On Tuesday, March 28th, Sam Sebastian, country head of Google Canada, will be our special guest, and on Thursday, March 30th, we will host a distinguished legal panel focusing on the future of law. To order your tickets or to learn more about the club, please visit us at canadianclub.org. You can also join the conversation via Twitter and Instagram by following us at CDNCLUBTO or by using that hashtag. I want to express special thanks to today's event sponsors, Davies Ward Phillips and Weinberg, represented by Jim Reed, EY, represented by Trent Henry, and Scotiabank, represented by Dieter Jentsch. Thank you for your generous support. And now today's speaker. As many of you know, I'm proud of my Newfoundland and Labrador heritage, so in many ways I consider introducing our speaker today as a patriotic honor. Fortis has deep roots in Atlantic Canada, dating back to the late 1800s. In fact, my hometown of Catalina was one of the first Newfoundland outports, powered by electricity in 1918. I wasn't around, when a 400 horsepower generating unit was installed by the Union Electric Light and Power Company, one of the original three founding electricity generators of today's Fortis. Since then, clearly a lot has changed, as the Newfoundland and Labrador-based company has powered ahead to be a leader in the utility industry. Today, it enjoys the distinction of being the largest investor-owned electric and gas utility in all of Canada, and one of the top 15 utilities in all of North America. Today's Fortis, headquartered in St. John's, has in excess of $48 billion in assets, serving 3.2 million customers through 10 utility operations in Canada, the United States, and the Caribbean. Its latest acquisition of ITC Holdings in the United States, valued at approximately $16 billion in 2016, catapulted Fortis to its leading North American position. We're pleased that Fortis President and CEO Barry Perry, who's led the company since 2014, is participating in our Global Leaders series. Barry's career with Fortis began in 2000, when the Memorial University graduate joined the corporation as Vice President of Finance and Chief Financial Officer of Newfoundland Power. Since then, he's overseen and financed the dramatic growth and diversification of the company and the resulting wealth and job creation for its shareholders, employees, and the communities in which it operates. Barry also serves on the boards of Fortis-based companies, including Fortis BC, UNS Energy, and ITC Holdings. He's a member of the Association of Chartered Professional Accountants of Newfoundland and Labrador. Before I turn the podium to Barry, I want to acknowledge the recent passing and pay tribute to Dr. Angus Bruno, the founding CEO of Fortis, who I know was a mentor to you, Barry, and to many in the Fortis family. As I mentioned previously, Barry will be happy to take any questions following his formal remarks, so please fill out one of the Q&A cards on your tables, and one of our team will be happy to collect them. So Barry, welcome. The Canadian Club of Toronto's podium is yours.
This is where I say, yeah! We played that video at our recent Fortis Day with all our management team, and I tell you, it made me emotional, actually. Fred stole my speech, so and the Google guy is going to be more interesting. That's my start. So thank you, Fred, and thank you to the Canadian Club. It's really I'm really happy to be here today to share you some facts about the evolution of Fortis, and I'll also talk about some issues and opportunities facing the energy sector. I have to use my glasses. I'm sure a few of you in the room are a bit slack on your geography, so first part of my speech is going to talk a little about where we are on the East Coast. So it's a 3.5-hour flight from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador to Toronto. A lot of people don't realize that. The Rock, as we call it, juts out into the cold North Atlantic Ocean, and St. John sits very near Cape Spear, the easternmost point in North America. Newfoundland and Labrador's tough climate is matched by the toughness of its people and the rugged beauty of its land. In this city, St. John's, on the edge of our continent, Fortis was born and continues to be headquartered. It is from here that we have grown, expanded, and built one of North America's leading corporations. A corporation with assets in 5 Canadian provinces, across 9 American states, and 3 Caribbean countries. A corporation that delivers energy to over 3 million gas and electric customers. A corporation that manages over $48 billion in assets and employs over 8,000 people. And as of late last year, a Canadian corporation listed on both the TSX and the New York Stock Exchange. Founded in 1885 as St. John's Electric Light Company, later becoming Newfoundland Power, the delivery of electricity has been our business for over 130 years. In 1987, Newfoundland Power shareholders converted their shares and became shareholders of a new holding company, Fortis. With that move, a new path was charted to acquire, invest, and build a company that stretched beyond the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Since then, leaders like the late Dr. Angus Bruneau and my mentor, Stan Marshall, pushed us into new jurisdictions. We invested with care and focused on performance and value creation. Let me tell you, it's an honor to follow these men as the 3rd CEO of Fortis. We acquired utilities in Prince Edward Island, Ontario, Alberta, and British Columbia, in the Caribbean, and in 2012 entered the U.S. market with the purchase of Central Hudson Gas and Electric in New York State. In 2015, we increased our U.S. presence with the purchase of Tucson Electric Power. What started in 1885 with the capital contributions of just 30 individuals was emerging as a major player on the North American stage. Today, Newfoundland Power's assets, which once represented our entire business, now represent just 3% of the total assets of Fortis. Our shareholders have been rewarded. We've seen tremendous growth in our stock price since 1987, when the closing price at year-end was about $5 versus about $43 now. In February 2016, about a year after I took the helm as CEO, we took our biggest step yet and acquired ITC Holdings for about $16 billion. ITC is the largest independent electric transmission company in the United States. It has over 25,000 kilometers of transmission, enough to stretch a line across Canada 5 times. That's a lot of line. ITC gives us a strong, low-risk, regulated transmission platform across 7 U.S. states. So while still rooted in Newfoundland and Labrador, we have become a market leader in transmission and the distribution utility business, wires and pipes, across North America. As we acquired new utilities, we also deployed capital to drive organic growth, update and modernize our electric and gas networks, and improve service quality and reliability for our customers. We perform well in large part due to our unique business model, and here are a few facts about that model. First, we don't enter into acquisitions to achieve cost synergies by laying off people and cutting expenses. We acquire utilities, open new opportunity to support our growth, as well as their growth and success. Second, we give our leaders substantial autonomy to plan, invest, and manage their local businesses. We charge our subsidiary CEOs to be CEOs, to identify opportunity and to seize it. We believe that this model is a significant competitive advantage. Third, the investments and the acquisitions have to be profitable for our shareholders. For 43 consecutive years, we have increased our dividends, the longest record of any public company in Canada. There is no bank, no other utility that has done it as long as Fortis. And fourth, we accomplish all of this while conducting business responsibly, with a focus on the longer term and with a deep respect for the environment, our customers, our regulators, and the communities we serve. This balance, this focus on doing well and doing good has served our people, our customers, and our shareholders well. In 2016, we invested $2 billion to upgrade and expand our networks. That number will rise in 2017 to $3 billion and about $13 billion over the next 5 years. We also have several projects not yet in our forecast that could increase our capital program by several $billion. We're definitely not standing still. Here in Ontario, we are partnering with Wataynikaneyap Power, or Waytay Power, for those who can't say it, which is owned by 22 First Nations, to connect 17 remote First Nation communities to the Ontario power grid for the first time. That's right, while many of us are discussing the cost of energy, thousands of people in this country, in this province, are off the grid. These communities currently use small diesel-fired generation that can be unreliable, not that friendly to the environment, and very expensive. Fortis is proud to be working with Waytay Power. This precedent-setting project has been in years in the making as a testament to what can be done with focus and determination on all sides. Our utility in Prince Edward Island, Maritime Electric, is laying 2 17-kilometer submarine cables along an old ferry route between Prince Edward Island and New Brunswick. This is a major undertaking. When completed, PEI will be able to access energy more efficiently and reliably. A great example of partnership between 2 provinces, the federal government, and the private sector to deliver concrete benefits to citizens. Our natural gas distribution business in British Columbia serves about 1 million customers and is about to commission significant new facilities that will provide gas for transportation, for trucks and ferries, and remote communities. And pending completion of a few more milestones, ITC, which has been part of the Fortis family for just a few months, plans to build the Lake Erie Connector, a 117-kilometer-long, 1,000-megawatt high-voltage transmission line to connect Nanticoke, Ontario, to a substation in Erie West, Pennsylvania. A bidirectional line running across the border, able to flow energy to and from Ontario as needed, lowering energy cost and improving reliability on both sides of the border. These are just a few of the ways we are deploying capital and resources to expand and renew the energy grid. With a strong business model and a track record of performance, we move forward to create new growth and continue to increase shareholder value, to hire people across our Canadian, American, and Caribbean businesses, and chart a path for continued success. We are proud of how far we've come, and we know our business model will allow us to go further. So it's from this vantage point that we explore North America, seeking opportunity and value for our customers, employees, and shareholders alike. And as one of North America's top utilities, we see firsthand how our economy and our society are changing. We're fortunate in Canada. For our entire history, we have been blessed with rich and abundant resources. These resources, extracted, refined, managed, and largely financed by Canadians, have helped us build a country that is among the greatest and most prosperous in the world. We must not lose sight of what has gotten us here. Energy delivered to homes, businesses, and industry across a 160,000-kilometer Canadian electric transmission network has helped power this prosperity. From aluminum smelters to oil refineries to the pulp and paper industry, from factories to high-tech labs, access to safe, reliable, and cost-effective energy has been the cornerstone of our economy and society. And while it has provided Canada with a competitive advantage in the past, we must continue to invest, build, and power a new tomorrow that is fast approaching, a tomorrow that is poised to put greater pressure on our industry and on governments to power our society's future. For example, the explosion of digital has led to the creation of a technology-based society that is creating increased demand for reliable, low-cost energy. From smartphones to massive data centers, how, when, and where we need electricity is shifting in real time. Along with the digital revolution, we see the continued move towards urbanization as a new pressure point for energy delivery. The growth of North American cities has opened the possibility of electrification of an ever-expanding urban transportation network, a network that will demand efficient energy to move millions of people. Progress continues in other segments as well. The growing demand for electric automobiles will further expand the need for energy delivered reliably and efficiently to our communities and our citizens in new ways at new locations. And as the commodity cycle turns again, and it will, the resource-based strength of our national economy will rise again, and new manufacturing facilities, new industrial facilities, new demands to provide the energy needed to power growth. These and other developments are all good news for Canada. It means our economy and our people will remain at the forefront of the developed world, able to compete and win by using what we have and what we know to enrich our lives. At the center of this economic picture, we see one common element, one need that fuels all of our aspiration, and that's energy, generated through hydro, nuclear, natural gas, and increasingly through renewable resources such as wind, solar, and biomass. At Fortis, we see it as both a business necessity and a responsibility to be ready to help power this new tomorrow, to make sure our energy networks are ready. So I'm sure that you will not be surprised when I say Fortis wishes to play a greater role in the work ahead to help build the energy infrastructure that services these changing markets. Investor-owned utilities can make enormous leaps, access capital, and invest to support both business results and the public interest. Unlike the U.S., which is dominated by investor-owned utilities, in Canada, provincial crown corporations continue to dominate energy generation, transmission, and distribution. The concentration of investor-owned utilities in the U.S. was the catalyst for our expansion south of the border. We acquired what we could in Canada and enhanced efficiency and performance at every occasion. But we saw more room for growth in the U.S., where many governments see themselves as a partner through policy and sound regulation, but not as an owner of energy utilities. Investor-owned utilities are able to accelerate performance and deliver broader benefits to governments and to citizens. Similar to state regulation in the U.S., in Canada, we do have strong provincial regulatory bodies overseeing our business and ensuring we deliver benefits to citizens while maintaining the health of our utilities. The role of the Ontario Energy Board, the BC Public Utilities Commission, the Newfoundland and Labrador Public Utilities Commission, the Alberta Utilities Commission, and every other regime that seeks to govern our work for the benefit of all citizens is essential. At Fortis, we have never argued for the elimination of regulation. Sound regulation works. It is essential to a well-functioning energy grid. But evolution is required. The challenge is too great, and governments have many uses for their fiscal capacity. Allowing investor-owned utilities a greater role can allow reallocation of government funds to education, transportation, health, and social services. The work to maintain and enhance the energy grid is too significant to be managed through public means alone. Today, our industry, a combination of investor and Crown-owned electric utilities, employs directly and indirectly over 94,000 Canadians and contributes about $28 billion to the national economy. Together, we operate an energy grid that is highly integrated with the U.S. grid, and the work we do powers our entire nation. We urge Canadian governments to take bold steps to partner with the private sector while continuing with sound regulatory oversight. To see investor-owned utilities as a source of funding and execution, to further privatize where it makes sense, and to allow a focus on performance to help drive modernization and expansion. So for the last 130 years, we have built, performed, and acquired to be ready for this time, to participate in this next chapter of developing the energy grid. With our business model and respect for regulation, we can play a greater role. Canada has a heritage of leadership in energy, but we cannot rest on our past. We must build for our future. Safe, cost-effective, reliable energy is the one element that is essential to sustain and improve our national economy and our standard of living. Planned and delivered with care and foresight, it must continue to be a competitive advantage for the Canadian businesses and citizens. And private enterprise, investor-owned utilities, can and must play a central role, because how this issue is addressed impacts us all. So, in closing, this is my Newfoundland advertisement. You got to come visit the Rock this summer. I have no doubt you're going to have a great time when you come visit. Come celebrate Canada's 150th anniversary in Newfoundland. But rest assured, Fortis remains committed to delivering safe, reliable, cost-effective energy to our customers, while at the same time increasing value for our shareholders. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. And as I mentioned, if there are any questions, please write them down, and I do have a few. So this is obviously an Ontario-centric question. You mentioned the new Lake Erie Connector project, and you'll see the Premier had an announcement today about electrical costs. What are the real benefits for Ontario in that project?
Well, we're very excited about Lake Erie Connector. The project really, is simply explained, connects the Ontario grid to the PJM grid in the U.S. for the first time. It's a direct connection. The PJM grid has got 140,000 megawatts of capacity. Ontario's got about 28,000. Ontario exports a lot of energy on an annual basis to New York and Michigan. This brings in a big new customer for that energy, and also you can import from that jurisdiction. So the value of that is, I think, fairly obvious, to be able to connect in the largest regional transmission organization in the U.S. And so it should lower cost over time. In fact, the NEB, in their approval of the project, the estimate of savings were like $250 million a year in savings related to that project. So we're hopeful we can take the necessary steps, working with some Ontario firms, to move that project forward.
Okay. Is Fortis exploring offshore wind? And for those who know Newfoundland, there's a lot of wind.
We've had a look at some projects. We haven't found something that works for us at this point in time. I would say more of our focus on the renewable side is in Arizona with solar. We're doing a lot of solar down there. As well, ITC in the Midwest is hooking up with its transmission network lots of wind farms. So that's where we're playing mostly on the renewable side at this point.
So does that mean no?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Damn Newfoundlander.
This is a U.S. question. Given tax uncertainty in the U.S., what are your thoughts on utility M&A, and do you believe that Canadian companies have a window of competitive advantage given this uncertainty?
No, I think it's probably more of a disadvantage to Canada right now. We have to sort of figure out what's going on in the U.S. I would generally say M&A is going to slow down, both from Canadians buying American firms in our sector, as well as American firms buying utilities in the U.S. until they figure out what this new tax plan is going to look like. That's my sense. I may be wrong. I'm usually wrong on M&A, so. But it's having a dampening impact right now. I would think so.
Okay. Can you tell us a little more about the Fortis business model? It seems to be somewhat unique for a utility.
I think it's unique in North America, actually. You know, we have a very small head office in St. John's. We have 50 employees in our head office, and yet we have 10 utilities across North America, 8,000 employees in total. You know, each of our utilities has their own management team with their own board. That board is usually made up of a majority of independent directors drawn from the service territory that the utility serves. And we feel that works in our business. Our regulation is local. It's state-based or provincially based. It's not national in scope, except for ITC, which has got a national regulator on transmission. But most of our businesses are regulated by state regulatory commissions and provincial regulatory bodies. And we think our model works in that sort of regulatory regime. And it's a really competitive advantage. It takes a lot of sort of skill, trust to allow it to move forward, but we've managed to find that way, and we get a lot of support from our regulators for the model as well, which is important in our sector.
Okay, I've got two more questions, so if anybody has anything else, please bring them forward. Given the dramatic growth you've seen, particularly in the last year or so, what next for Fortis?
Well, right now we're focused on integration of ITC, and we'll take all of 2017 to do that, and then we'll figure out what comes after that. That's actually, timing works because of all the Trump tax plan, and you know, we're not anxious to rush back to big utility M&A. We are spending at $3 billion a year in CapEx, and that's allowing our company to grow nicely over the next few years. And these other projects that we're working on, if we're successful, Erie Connector could be as much as $1 billion project. So, you know, those kind of projects can accelerate our growth as well. So that's where we're focused right now.
And the last question, what are your thoughts on PEU and growth for load, given the fact that of the current 11 million vehicles in Ontario, only about 10,000 are electric and would have to increase to 2.5 million before making? Somebody who asked this question really knows what they're talking about.
It's a test.
Yeah, absolutely. Would have to increase to 2.5 million before making a noticeable impact on power consumption.
You know, I think there will be an increase in electric vehicles. You know, how quickly it happens remains to be seen. You know, Elon Musk obviously is pushing real hard for that at this point, but it's still slow. There's still not a lot of electric vehicles on the road, and but I think it will happen over time. It might take 10, 15, 20 years, but I think that it's increasingly electric vehicles will become more prevalent in North America.
Is that just a question of getting costs of the vehicles down?
I think it's cost, yeah, and you know, I don't think anyone is. There's going to be much change in people's focus on the environment, and I think there's going to continue to be pressure to move away from carbon-based fuels, and so I believe that electric vehicles will continue to be, you know, that market will continue to grow for sure. I can't predict how quickly, but it's definitely, and for electric utilities, it probably is a, you know, you can't estimate how much it would mean, but it's probably a growth area, frankly, to, you know, make sure the grid is equipped to deal with charging stations at people's homes, and you know, I think there will have to be a lot of upgrading of the system to allow that sort of network of charging to occur. You know, make sure that people don't come home and plug in their cars and blow the fuses, basically, right? So.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
So one of the things that Barry mentioned was inviting everybody to come to visit Newfoundland this summer. And for those of you who were here in the fall, we actually hosted Zita Cobb from the Fogo Island Inn, and which is really an award-winning inn, ecotourism inn on Fogo Island. And so I'm sure Zita would be absolutely thrilled to have you come and visit. So, Barry, I want to thank you for your inspiring comments today and for participating in our Global Leaders Series. There's no doubt that Fortis is a great Canadian company. Your leadership of Fortis clearly demonstrates the incredible strength of Canada's electricity, gas, and energy sectors as drivers of Canada's economic prosperity. As you mentioned, Canadian organizations must continue to innovate, commit to environmentally sustainable practices, challenge the status quo with respect to government ownership, and think and act outside the box, not just restrict our ambitions to provincial or national markets. This is not an option. Canada's future prosperity and competitiveness depend on it. Fortis is leading the way and is a great example of how vision, strategic investment, and some good old-fashioned East Coast risk-taking can play long-term dividends. So your results are indeed very enviable. Please accept our best wishes as Fortis moves boldly forward to continued growth and success. I also want to extend another round of thanks to today's event sponsors, Davies Ward, Phillips & Weinberg, EY, and Scotiabank. Thank you very much. Also thanks to MediaEvents.ca, Canada's online event space, and VVC for live streaming today's event. To learn more about the club, please visit us at canadianclub.org. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at another of our events in the near future. Have a great afternoon.